Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. They say if you stand tall, you are standing on the shoulders of your ancestors. Much of African history and our culture has been passed down by our prophets through ways not as mundane as writing. It's something more visceral, something more emotional. In Nigeria, we've seen as history has been passed down through Ankara. We have seen how the form, the fabric, and then the patterns communicate inflection points in history. And today we are joined by our modern day prophets. Mr. Oh, why you Mr. Lawal Adebayo Awal, who through his fashion house, Orange Culture, communicates through form, design, and pattern. And pattern isn't just in one form. It's not just visual. They are auditory cues. And today, our other prophet is Kidi, whose name actually means a talking drum, used for communication across tribes in Ghana. And as the prophets have gathered us here, at the temple, that is the Oxford Business Africa Alliance, Africa Business Forum, excuse me, I want us to stand on the shoulders of our ancestors and look forward to the future and ask how we can use fashion and music as a catalyst for growth on the African continent. So let's take it away. Kidi and Adebayo, you've both been successful, taking African creativity to the global stage, from music charts to fashion runways. Could you share a little more about your personal journey? How did your background and experiences shape your creative vision? And what were some key turning points or pivotal moments that allowed you to break through internationally?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very glad to be here. And yeah, my journey started years ago. I actually have a background in finance. So as another African child, many of us know we weren't allowed to study creative things going on. So I went to school, studied banking and finance, and I have a master's in international management. But throughout the time that I was growing up, I always knew I wanted to be in fashion. I was always just drawn to clothes and drawn to how clothing was made, drawn to seeing how people reacted to clothing and how clothing affected the way people saw themselves. And so even when I was younger, I always just found ways to learn. I would work with other fashion designers. I interned at newspapers, at magazines. I worked at fashion weeks. I found every opportunity to sort of gather knowledge because I knew that I didn't have access to go to fashion school or come to New York or go to London. And so I found ways to sort of gather that knowledge. And so after years of gathering as much knowledge as possible, I launched my brand in 2010. I used all my savings from working. I remember at the time I was working at Shell, and I literally left my NYC, finished there, and it was like, oh, what do you want to do next? I'm like, I'm not going back to anything corporate. I want to invest all my energy into starting my own brand. And I started with as little as I had. I launched a brand. And one of the things that I always wanted to make sure that I did from the beginning was not just to create clothing, but to create clothing that told a story. Because I believe that fashion could be more than just making a shirt or trouser. It could hold much more than that. And so I understood the importance of using your platform to sort of amplify where you come from, amplify your culture, amplify your stories, and also tell other stories of what you want to see in the world. And so when I launched my brand from the beginning, it was very important for me to understand that using my platform, I was always sort of like an ambassador for where I came from. So in the way the clothing was made, in the way that I projected the clothing as well, in the way the clothing was shot, in the models I used, in the people I worked with, I understood the importance of amplifying Nigeria, amplifying the fact that I was black, and amplifying the need to be somebody who projects quality into the world as a black Nigerian person. Because already at the time, there were already all the projections of how being African was low quality. Things good were not coming from there. It was either you were seeing an advert of a starving child who had malaria in Nigeria at the time. And so I understood the importance of standing in those rooms and being somebody who said, you know what, this isn't our only story. We're more than that. We have talent, we have skill, we have stories to tell. We have amazing people who come from this culture, and we can stand and compete in international spaces. And so from the beginning for me, it was always a thing of Nigeria was not the only place I wanted to be. I wanted to make sure that the brand stood in places in New York, in Paris, in London. And so the quality of my work from the beginning was always to ensure that everything I did, even being shot, the way that I photographed the work, the way that I told the stories, was always going to be at an international level. And so fast forward to now, we've been able to, I was the first to be competing at the Louis Vuitton, the LVMH Prize competition. I was the first African to be nominated alongside Maki O with the Woolmark Prize. And a lot of other things have been won by Lupita, by John Legend, by all these different people. And the importance of knowing where you're going and choosing to create work that can stand in those rooms was always the thing for me. I just knew that I could be more. And also understanding that, you know, your clothing, literally fashion can actually help lives, it can save lives. Because sometimes people try to simplify, like, oh, you're not saving lives, you know, you're not a doctor, not a this. But the fact that something as, you know, as superficial, seemingly superficial as making a shirt can create income for families, it can create, you know, industry, it can affect the economy. There's so many things that fashion can do. And I understood the value and importance of that, and I made sure that through my work, through local production and all the other things that we're doing, and even when I go out globally, I understand the importance of standing in that and understand the importance of my place as a Nigerian in those rooms. And fast forward to now 15 years where we've been in so many places, Paris, New York, London. I'll tell you more as the story goes on, but that's basically it for now.
That's a lot of conviction. Yes. And when it comes to conviction, Kiddy, I know you have a lot of conviction.
I do.
I mean, you can take us through your journey, but I know from singing in your dorms to heading to Moonlight Cafe to MTN Hitmaker, it's taken a lot of conviction for you to get
It has. So I come from a family where education is above everything. You dare not tell your mom you want to make music. And I think it's similar with a lot of Africans where you come from. There are certain jobs that don't have prestige attached to it when we're growing up, like fashion designing, like music, like photography. You have to go to school to be a doctor or a lawyer or something that had prestige attached to it. So I grew up as a black sheep of the family because I always wanted to do music and sports. In uni, as he rightly mentioned, I joined a thing called Moonlight Cafe where we're given an opportunity to perform live band across campuses from Accra to Kumasi, and I built my confidence from there. And to be honest, I don't speak about this a lot, but I grew up with a lot of trauma and stuff, and music was always an escape for me. Even in uni, every Thursday from 7 and 11 p.m., me and my friends and our guitars, we'll find the nearest ice cream shop, the nearest pizza shops. We'll play from 7 to 11, just entertaining people that came to buy ice cream or pizza, you know. So bit by bit, 2015, I was very fortunate. I got the chance to join a music reality show in Ghana called MTN Hitmaker. It was a big challenge because prior to that, all I was used to doing was sitting behind a piano and playing, or sitting behind a guitar and just standing at one place, very comfortable. I was quite clumsy. I don't know how to move on stage, and you know, it's crazy saying this now because now if you look at my performances, there's been immense growth. Yeah, so I had to grow through every week of live performance, bit by bit, week after week, gathering confidence, gathering my, you know, courage, and well, like you said, the story is long, but let's just fast forward to here. I'm grateful for all the opportunity life has given me and what is even yet to come, you know, so.
So it seems there's a common thread between the both of you, and I'm sure a lot of the people in the audience were I guess they wanted to do something creative. And their parents were like, no, extra classes. I mean, me, myself, I also wanted to be a footballer. I wasn't Didier Drogba level, but I mean, your photographer was in my school. He knew of my abilities, but that didn't turn out.
I think in my final year in uni, right, you know, African parents are very concerning they're concerned about your life, you know. So my mom would ask me, so you're in your final year in uni, you're about to finish, what is the plan for your life? And I'm like, you know, I want to make music. And then she goes like, music and what? Because are you trying to survive off just music? No, music and what? Tell me something tangible, something I can brag to my friends about, you know. But yeah, we're here now, we're grateful, you know.
I give, so now that I'm a fully grown adult, I give I give parents a bit more grace because I always look at them and I think, when I look at my parents, I think of my dad and I'm like, he didn't have any yardsticks to measure success in those industries. So for him, any parent wishes that their children will be successful. So when you say, I want to be something that they haven't seen the reality of, it's hard for them to want to envision that for you as well. So I give them grace. And the thing is, as you do it, if you notice, the more successful you come, the more they're like, oh,
now?
Can I come to your this? Can I, you know? And so you've given them that belief and you've given them that gift. And somebody else will also see that example and follow through with that. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of care that we're hearing about from our parents. Earlier this year, I was reading an article from The Economist, and it said, Africa has a relatively high share of informal self-employment, and the likelihood of a young person entering informal work does not seem to be diminishing, highlighting some of the challenges on the continent. Right. I want to ask both of you, from your experiences, how significant are music and fashion as sources of job creation and entrepreneurship in Africa? And could you, highlight some examples or stories that you've personally witnessed? And I'm talking about not just any jobs, you know, jobs that provide dignity.
I mean, I think every job provides. I mean,
what do you mean by that?
No, but I hear you. I'm just teasing you. But I think, for example, when I use the fashion industry, I think sometimes when people think about fashion, they simplify it to just the designer. But the cycle of how the fashion industry works actually creates a lot of job opportunities, from whether it's design to manufacturing to textile to fashion production, whether it's for shows, for events, to tailors, to pattern cutters, to dyers, to weavers. The list goes on to accountants, to lawyers, there's so much that could come from that. Education, for example. And I think the problem is we unfortunately have very short-sighted leadership, and unfortunately they don't understand what the creative industry can do when the investment goes into expanding in that industry. And I think once there's enough income, and I think, to be honest, even using existing businesses, using my business, using a lot of people, I can use fashion businesses in Nigeria and Ghana, people that I've met in South Africa, and the businesses they've been able to create with no support of our existing, our existing leaders. There's a lot of job opportunities that have already been given out. I know how many people that I'm feeding, who are feeding their families through my business, or people who are creating other businesses through my business as well. So I know how just me making this one shirt, has given somebody who sells fabric, because we source locally, we produce locally, we're doing all this things. So if I'm buying this fabric from one guy in Aba, or buying this, or getting somebody to dye my fabric in Abeokuta, and then my tailor is making that, getting somebody to embroider, you are helping feed these people, and these are jobs of dignity who are then being able to feed their own families as well. So I think once you begin to see fashion and the creative industry as businesses, not as playthings or as hobbies, you see them as existing businesses that can actually contribute to a growing GDP, then you see just how big this, look at the richest man in In fact, he's one of the richest men in the world. Bernard Arnault. He's in LVMH. I mean, that's fashion. Think about all the things that he's been able to do just from the fashion industry. Think about how much money they've been able to contribute to the industry. Even think about brands like Jacquemus in France, and think about all these businesses who are contributing millions into their countries, through their businesses. So when the right support is given to these businesses, when the infrastructure exists for these businesses to also scale, then that money can come in, and those job opportunities could actually expand more to more people. So I hope that makes sense. Yes. Okay.
Kitty.
Before I even say what I actually want to say, I want to emphasize something he said about people taking the creatives seriously. Music is a serious business. It is serious business. Sometimes when people come up to me like, oh, we want to book you to perform at so and so place, and then you give them a charge, there's always a topic of dignity. There's always that thing where a condescension of, oh, I just come to jump on stage and you're charging me. It's serious business. For you to be attracted to a brand like me to come and perform, it takes an army, it takes a village. The job, there's people that are doing PR, people that are doing marketing. There's mixing and mastering engineers. There's live band, pianists, instrumentalists. There's so many people that are working behind the scenes to make sure that a brand is looking how it's supposed to look. So for job creation, like I said, marketing people, there's PR people, there's people, producers, there's dancers, because there's branches, music is branching into like different aspects and stuff. So it is serious business, and through that, we're able to give other, I don't want to use the word sub, but they are all helping, to build the tree. So, yeah.
Amazing.
Good. It's good you spoke about, your artistry being a business. Because last night, you and I had a conversation where I told you I have beef with you. Because one of your best songs ever isn't something you publicize much. You have a commercial side, and you have the art side. How do you construct your product mix? I guess for the both of you, because you have to use the global platform to reach who you need to reach for returns, as well as stay true to yourself.
It's a thing of balance. I say balance because and sometimes we need to be realistic in some of these conversations. Where I come from, a lot of people are operating on survival. You need to survive. And in survival, it means you have to do what works, because there is powers that be that are investing in your craft, powers that be that are pushing you and doing what you have to do. And you made a very interesting point that I have a song on one of my EPs that you love very much, but it's not publicized. Because where we're from, the people want to dance. Africans, we love to dance. We want our music that will make us dance. It means some of the other songs that are alternative, that aren't mainstream, don't get so much love, And sometimes I ask myself, what type of art we'll be making if we're making art based on freedom and not art based on there's a label signing, there's investment, we need to make returns on investment, So you just need to find the balance, commercial success, but still feeding the art side of you, because you cannot let the art side of you die, just by chasing commercial success.
No, I think he answered it perfectly. I think finding the balance between being super creative and also your commercial. At the end of the day, you're a business, so you have to make money so your business can run. And so it's important for you to find cash cows that bring in money into your business so that they can fund your creativity. So I see it as the commercial aspect giving me the opportunity to be free to do the creative stuff, because I need funds to do the creative things. So therefore, there has to be some commercial angle where the money is coming in through. Otherwise, I'll just be a dying artist, and there's no point I will just be creating for myself, So at the end of the day, you have to find some balance, and it's really just about, so for example, a practical example for fashion is that you have your runway pieces, which are a bit more exaggerated and may not be as ready to wear. But on the other side, you also have more casual pieces that you sell on. And even within the runway piece, you have like a white shirt, and that white shirt is what people want to buy millions of. But there's one really creative person that wants to buy one dress that's twisted on the top and costs, this amount. So you always have to find ways to put in the accessible within the inaccessible, so that way people can buy, but still also aspire and dream to have things that don't seem as easy to buy. And I think in terms of global impact and keeping your, I guess, what was the question? You said global impact and still being able to keep to your local roots in a sense. I think it's really just understanding that when you do have global success, and I say this, not just even for designers, but even for musicians, for artists, for everyone, just don't forget where you've come from, and don't forget to find ways to reroute your funding back to where you've come from. It's like, for example, I always joke about like how musicians, not kidding, because not you, but how like musicians will need you when they're small, but once they become big, they want to go to Fendi. And they want to go to Grammys and wear Fendi and wear Off-White. They will wear an African brand, they won't tag you on social media, but once they wear Off-White, the bag is here, the tag is here, everything is everywhere. But it's that thing of like understanding that you giving that platform, your roots gave you the opportunity to have that platform and to have that success. So don't forget your roots when you become successful. Don't drop your roots because now I'm big, so now everybody... And things that as you become bigger, there will be a desire for you from everywhere. People want to own you. People who colonized you want to own you because they want to be able to say that they made you, you understand? And so you have to remember that you've come from this place that supported you when you were nobody. And so remember that as your money is expanding, you're also bringing your money back. Make sure that you're investing in support systems for people who are coming after you, mentorship programs, you're doing things that are supporting people who... Because for me, the most important thing for me is that what I experienced growing up as a fashion designer, we didn't have a lot. I remember when this was 15 years ago, my brand is 15 years now, and I started working in fashion when I was like 16, 17. And information I didn't have. Support I didn't have, mentorship I didn't have. To go to people to even say, I want to learn how to pattern. You have to go and sleep in the market to learn from somebody who doesn't also know how to pattern that well because he learned it from his grandma. And so there's not a lot of support. And so for me, it's like, how do I bring that back to people? The skills I'm learning, how do I treat? So for example, I have a mentorship program and we use that to teach people sort of the information and give them the skills to prepare them to also become global. And I think it's really important for us to understand that being global gives you the opportunities to better where you've come from so they too can get there. Don't forget where you're coming from. And so that's how I keep my local roots and also just other things, producing locally, making sure that you're using the skills that you have back home. And there's much more, but those are just small examples. Yeah.
Yes. Those are very small examples, making a big impact. So we spoke about growth, right? And I'm wondering about sustainable growth, particularly in the music industry, right? Given the rapid global demand for African music right now, what do you think is required to build sustainable careers for African artists within the continent rather than them seeking, opportunities abroad or success abroad? Are there any artists on the continent that you are familiar with that you believe are even growing sustainably? And I guess how are they doing it? What do you believe are the key tenets there?
So I think one way that we can sustain the growth of Afrobeats is industry. And when I say industry, I mean we need to build and develop the industry within Africa. Because a lot of times we find African artists, when you become big, to stamp how big you are, you need to seek external validation. If you don't go to the Grammys or the BET, people don't really see that you've arrived. Mm-hmm. But if we have an industry built within Africa where we have similar things that endorse how big you are, we need to build that industry within. We need to make sure African artists have infrastructure, they're able to tour within Africa. Because a lot of times when people say we're going for a world tour, Africa is usually not included. Yeah. Because sometimes you understand there isn't the infrastructure, the quality of sound and arenas and venues to execute such things. So we need to, like I said, build industry within us. grow us, empower ourselves, each other, through the music, building recording studios, even publishing, DSPs. We have to have all of that within Africa for Africans by Africans that are actually successful, and serious. And I think that's one way that we can sustain the industry.
I mean, so I've got a lot of requests for questions before I even started this conversation. Everybody seems to be excited. So I'd like to take a few questions from the crowd. I mean, your hand was up first. So yours was second, Mr. Sony.
Thank you very much. My name is Kelechi. My question is around fundraising. I mean, we've had conversations around DFIs through the forum, startups being investable by VCs and all of that. And I wonder, what's the equivalent of that in the creative industry? So with your shows in Paris, New York, and the likes, what do you do to supposedly to investors to say, I'm going to do this, this is the ROI you get, this is how much you get, and all of that? Yeah.
Okay. I'll take the second.
Thank you very much. Bayo, I haven't seen you in 10 years, in the last 10 years. No. Condolences.
Thank you so much.
He lost his mother recently.
Yeah, but I lost my mom.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so
I tell you something. You are born at the right time. Bob Marley, Fela Kuti, they were rebels. Fela came to the UK to study medicine. He dumped medicine, studied music. His father was a reverend father. He disowned him. Bob Marley wanted to do a tour in Africa, but the funders were not going to take it because of the infrastructure, because of the challenges. Now people become stars and want to wear Fendi. Fendi is a name. Fendi is not a spirit. You must position yourselves. We have people, stars that have come out of Africa. A Nigerian-owned company was recently bought with $12.5 billion by BlackRock. It's a Nigerian, Adebayo, your namesake, Ogunlesi, GIP. He's not a spirit. It is up to you to think strategically. You are in the same age bracket with, what's his name, Davido. You will roll together. Egbeni, sit down with them and say, brother, put on this and put it from Bayo Kelawar. So you do it. And you go and remind them of Rambler's dance band that originated from Ghana. Ghana taught us music in Nigeria. Most of the people who played with Fela were Ghanaians.
Yes. I'll hold you. I like that. Yeah. Can you record that? I need that.
Yeah. So thank you, Mr. Soni.
You have no idea what you've done. I need that footage, please. No.
Mr. Soni.
I'm coming. Sorry, I'm coming.
We need the question. In the interest of time.
I don't want this Nigerian-Ghana issue, right? Because we have serious work to do.
None of that.
It's like two dwarfs talking about height. We have work to do. Thank you.
So we'll take the... No, kindly hold on. Wait, kindly hold on. We'll take the first question and then get a response, and then we'll follow up. So the first question, where they were talking about fundraising, I guess was the equivalent in the fashion industry. I also wanted to know for the music industry, because how do you raise funds? Because I know even when Rima releases a new song, there's a lot of money that goes into getting the song on the waves. So let's take it first from the fashion industry.
I mean, I'll speak personally, obviously. I think, to be fair, with the fashion industry, there's not a lot of opportunities that have been created for access to funding and investment. I'm currently speaking to investors, and even the investors will tell you that there's no opportunities for you. I've had many meetings, and they'll tell you, oh, the creative industry, it's a bit volatile, we're not ready, we'd rather invest in tech, rather invest in agri. And fair to them, because those things are clear, they're clear ROIs for them, you understand, and quicker quicker ways for them to access their funding back. And so there's not a lot of opportunities. So for me, how I do get funding for shows, because shows are really expensive, is that I write proposals to businesses and I work with a lot of, like, for example, I work with alcohol brands. Like, for example, we worked with Budweiser, Remy Martin. We've worked with so many alcohol brands. Alcohol brands they're amazing. They support. And yeah, it's sad that I'm saying alcohol brands because, yeah, but we write proposals to them and they will fund you to go to those shows as long as, obviously, you speak about them, you put their brand, you include them. So we've worked with a lot of alcohol brands and they will take you to those shows in Paris. They will fund you to go to those shows. So we've worked with telecoms a bit. So I write a lot of proposals. I don't wait for people to come to me. I'll come to your office, I'll write your proposal, I'll tell you this is what I want, this is what I'm going to give you, I'm important, you need to say that you are assigned to me, all these things. And so I literally write proposals for them. And that's why I've gone to shows everywhere, because shows cost thousands of dollars. And these thousands of dollars are not small. This is not a bag, this is thousands of dollars to get models, this, that. So you need the support of businesses. It's what every show does. LVMH supports the shows for all these brands. Kering does as well. We don't have those in Nigeria. So who do you use? Use what exists. So I just use my resources, build those partnerships, offer them proposals that make sense. Be realistic about what you can offer. Be realistic about what you can give back to them. Don't offer things that you can't give back to them. And use the money for what you said you'll use it for. Don't buy a car. Don't buy a house. Please. And I'll say this because I've been in rooms where people have destroyed our reputation so much because of how they've used funding, to the point that when it's time for me to have this conversation, they're already like, I was telling somebody the other day, like I was talking to an investment company and we were already at the last stage of investment. And the person before us, who's an African, had squandered the money so much that they had to shut down the African region. They had to shut down investing in the African region. They were like, no, we're not doing this anymore. We have to figure out where else we're going, because the person had spent this money on flights, I don't even know how to explain, but it was a lot. And so when you have those opportunities, remember that you are opening the door for somebody else. Once you destroy it, you're closing the door for everybody else that looks like you and comes from where you come from. So please utilize the money wisely and don't buy a Porsche. Thank you. All I say.
So for the music side, we have, like you said, investors too. But these days, the investors have their streams being dried up, because nobody is confident enough to put their money in music. Like you said, it's very volatile. It's a gamble. You can make the most amazing music and still not be successful. So the investments these days is drying up quite a bit. We have labels, right? The labels come, they sign you. It's okay, we see what you're doing. We want to invest this amount of money into what you're doing. But for somebody like me personally, the label money is still not enough, because the label is only going to invest something, but for the vision of where I want to get to and what I want to do, it takes 5 times that investment. It means what I have to do is sacrifice. Every money that I make now, I reinvest it back into the music. I don't live lavish. And that's the only way I can get to keep funding myself over and over again, because like you said, investment now, no assurances. Yeah. Labels, they only invest when you look like you're popping. Yeah. If you're not popping, we'll give you some 10,000. When you're popping, your budget is 1 million, Mm-hmm. So I just keep running it back, putting my own money back into my craft, growing. And sometimes even that is still not enough, but we're doing what we're doing,
Okay, I can take another question. 2 questions. No, sorry. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mr. Lawal. It's lovely to meet you, and thank you for being here. I wanted to frame my question through an example of Nigeria, because I'm Nigerian as well. For example, some of the best leather in the world comes from Kano, and the tanneries have been there for hundreds of years and been produced into houses like Louis Vuitton and Prada, etc. And I wanted to ask you how to get rid of the stigma of made in Africa and made in Nigeria, not only amongst the international stage, but in ourselves, because as a Nigerian, I can say that it takes education to get out of the, I'd rather have stuff from the US or I'd rather go to the UK for certain materials and certain textiles, when our culture is so richly diverse in the way that we produce garments. And even Ankara, the way Ankara is made, like all of these are very specialized dyeing techniques, which can be globalized and spread into different aspects. So I just wanted to ask how to kind of break through and how you have broken through the sort of stigma of, made in Africa versus made in Italy or made in Portugal.
Okay. Can I take another question? Can I?
I'm sorry, I normally keep quiet because it's just so much to learn. But I'm absolutely excited about both of you. Well done. I wanted to ask a question, but I will make a comment instead. So I write often about African parenting and Nigerian parenting particularly. And something that I've seen with creatives, when I compare North American creatives to African creatives, is that all of you get that education. So Kidi, economics and information systems, Adebayo, finance. When I heard both of you talk about being creative, you're also talking about like business leaders. And you're able to do that because your parents said, go and give me my engineering or my doctor or my accounting or my economics first. So I think there's something around also how that is going to support the creative industry because a lot of you are very, very well educated. So if you have time, you can give your perspective. But I do think that African parenting is something that the world needs to look at again. Thank you.
There's something I wanted to add to that. I thank you so much. What you said is very true because few times I've had the opportunity to speak in schools, young kids. They always ask me, like, what advice will you give young kids who are also wanting to be artists or wanting to do sports or wanting to do whatever? I just say, whatever it is that you do, whether be it music, be it designing, be it sports, you might be the most talented person on earth. If you're able to add education to it, your value becomes, you up your value more than any of your peers because that added value just adds to everything you're doing. The way you talk, the way you speak, the way you write, the way you create is above your peers because you have education added to the talent.
Even on a practical business level, you're able to be aware of like deals. I mean, look at a lot of unfortunate situations with musicians who got really bad contracts. They didn't know that they were being told that, they will take like 80% of their funding, all those things. But when you're educated enough, you can read your contracts, you can negotiate for yourself, you can have conversations and people will listen, and those are things that you cannot replace, So I would always say go to school first, even if it's business, yeah. Oh, and then your question, sorry. I think that question is very hard to answer. I think, no, because there's a lot of nuance to it. I think the thing with the African stigma is that it's something that has just been on forever. I don't know how, I think for me, what I've done is that my work will speak for me. I think the most important thing is creating a product that actually works, creating a good product, and I think that's the first part. And the unfortunate second part, and this is a very bad thing to say, is that with Nigerians, you also have to get external validation, which is what he said. Africans love you more when other people love you. When they see your American counterpart saying, oh my gosh, I remember, I'll give you myself as an example. When I started doing my brand, this was 15 years ago, I remember the first collection I released, Nigerians dragged me. In fact, they told me, this is too much. Who would wear all these things? I remember I cried. I was like, oh my God. And then the next year, I then showed in Ghana with my people. That's why I love Ghana so much. I then showed in Ghana. But I love Ghana. I love Nigeria, obviously, but I love Ghana. I went to show in Ghana, and I was there was like a Ghana fashion. It was my first show outside of Nigeria. It was my first show, actually. And then I did a show in Ghana, and I didn't know that there was a lady who was passing the hotel, and she works with Vogue. And she saw me, and she was like, oh, who are you? And I didn't even know she was Vogue. She just said, oh, I want to talk to you. And we had a whole conversation. And the next week, she had published me in Vogue. I didn't know who she was, everything. And that Vogue feature changed everything. That first Vogue changed everything for me. That was one thing. Nigerians were like, oh, who's this guy? Who is he? Same people that were like, oh, this boy is doing rubbish. They're like, oh, who is he? Then I now did LVMH, and then they saw me. I was with Kanye, with Karl Lagerfeld, with Anna Wintour. Nigerians claimed me. In fact, they were like, our Nigerian brother has gone to Paris. Everywhere, they were like, he has gone to this. And from then on, it changed everything. It's unfortunate that that has been the case, but I think that now there's a generational shift, and that generational shift has created an awareness that has changed the way people see Africa. A lot of people, especially Gen Z, and that's why I love them, they're so proud to be African. Even with the way they handle social media, look at their TikTok content, the way that they dress, even the Nollywood references, the things that we were taught to be ashamed of, they're claiming it, you understand? And that's thing, I think, that appreciation has come. I remember we were sitting together and we're talking about she's won Nigerian brands since I've seen her, the past 2 days that she's been here. And there's a pride in her wearing it, saying, oh yeah, I'm wearing this Nigerian brand. There's a pride that's coming. So I think that change is happening. People are psychologically changing the way that they've seen African brands. I think what just matters for you is making sure that your product is good, making sure that when people see the product and they know you're African, you're presenting something that you can be proud of. They're not saying, he's African, so we want to support him because African. They're saying we want to buy it because it's a good product, but he's African too. So that African shouldn't be a clause for them to have to buy it. It should be more that your product is good enough, your presentation is good enough. When you're in business meetings, you're able to do what is needed. People say, oh, I want to be sold in stores. Do you know what it means to meet with a buyer? Do you know the packaging that you have to do? Do you know the documents that you need? Do you know how to have those conversations? I have to have business conversations all the time, and that's why I'm thankful that I went to school, because I'm meeting buyers and they're telling me, oh, what is your distance? How many this have you sold? How many that? If I didn't know, I would just be there like, oh yeah, I just make clothes, buy my clothes. No, but I know the business of my fashion, so I can say, oh, this is how much I can give you, this is how much we sell, this is how this is made. We have our line sheets, we have our this, we have this factory here, we have. All of those things are important, but a lot of people think that my talent is enough. So as Africans, I do it for fun, so I don't really need to know the business of it. Make sure that you are prepared to also have that recognition, so that when the opportunity comes and the light is on you, you're prepared on every level, and you stand as an African with quality work that people want to push out into the world. So I think that's just it. But people are changing, and people are loving the stigma is clearly moving, is shifting away, you understand? So we just have to continue to do what's right, so that way, yeah.